So what if I told you that winning a massive high-stakes game by a score of like 5-0 right before a huge global tournament might actually be the most dangerous thing that could possibly happen to a team?
I mean, it sounds completely counterintuitive, right? You would think a blowout win is, well, the ultimate confidence booster.
Right.
But in the psychology of elite sports, a result like that can actually act as this massive, blinding spotlight. Like it just hides all your structural cracks.
Yeah, I love that framing. Yeah. And honestly, that is exactly our mission for today. So welcome to this deep dive where we are taking a magnifying glass to just a single really crucial sports report. We're analyzing Belgium's final World Cup warm-up match, which was this really commanding 5-0 victory over Tunisia right before the team heads to the United States to start the actual tournament.
Yeah, it's the ultimate final dress rehearsal, basically, before the curtain goes up.
Exactly. And I want to say right up front to you listening, even if you don't consider yourself a diehard soccer fan, you are definitely going to want to stick around for this one.
Oh, absolutely.
Because once we look past that final score, this isn't just, a story about a ball going into a net. It's really a masterclass in how individual brilliance can completely break an opponent's system.
Yeah.
Plus, we get this fascinating look at the psychology of redemption and a study in the immense danger of entering a high-stakes environment with a false sense of security.
Because the stakes literally could not be higher. I mean, you spend 4 years building an identity, and this 90-minute window is, well, it's your last chance to see if the machine actually works before you ship it across the world.
Yeah, it's wild. Okay, let's unpack this. Because to really understand how Belgium dismantled Tunisia 5-0, we have to start by looking at the hard facts.
Right.
Belgium scored 5 goals, yes. But Tunisia also ended the game playing down to 10 men.
Which is a huge factor.
It is. So to figure out how the dam broke, we have to look at the catalyst. And according to the report, that catalyst was a player named Jeremy Doku.
Absolutely. Doku was, he was operating primarily on the left side of the pitch. And the report explicitly calls his form superb. It points out that he gave the Tunisian defense an incredibly difficult time, eventually forcing the exact error that changed the entire math of the game.
Now, for anyone listening who might not be, steeped in soccer tactics, the report refers to Doku as a winner.
Right.
Which basically means his job is to play way out wide, essentially hugging the sideline.
Yeah.
And his primary function is to stretch the opponent's defense horizontally.
Exactly, pulling them apart.
Right, but reading through the breakdown of his performance, Doku doesn't sound like a traditional athlete to me. He sounds more like a computer virus that was just, injected directly into Tunisia's defensive programming.
A computer virus. I mean, yeah, I think that is a highly accurate way to look at it.
It makes sense, right?
Totally. Let's break down the mechanics of why that metaphor works.
Well, think about how a professional defense operates. It is essentially structural programming. The team practices thousands of if-then statements. Like, if the ball goes into this zone, the defender shifts 3 steps to the left. If a player makes a run here, we pull off an offside trap there.
Highly coordinated.
Exactly. But then you introduce a chaotic element like Doku. You inject this pure, unadulterated, unpredictable speed.
Yeah.
He simply bypasses those defensive firewalls.
Yeah.
He doesn't act the way the system expects him to. And because of that, the system starts throwing fatal errors.
And what's fascinating here is the compounding psychological toll of that specific kind of speed.
It's a psychological toll.
Yeah, because it's not just the physical act of a winger running past the defender once. It's the sheer terror of knowing he can run past you at any given second.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
When a defender is terrified of a player's pace, they instinctively start backing up. They give him more room, which stretches out the entire defensive shape.
Which ruins the team's structural integrity.
Precisely. Tunisia was in an absolute pressure cooker trying to contain him, and eventually that pressure causes a total system crash.
And looking at the timeline, that crash happened exactly in the 62nd minute.
Correct. Tunisia's midfielder, Ismail Garbi, he goes in for this wild, desperate lunge on Doku.
Which is just...
It is the textbook definition of a player whose defensive programming has completely failed. And because of that tackle, Garbi receives his second booking of the match.
Okay, let me pause you there, just to be crystal clear on the terminology for the listeners.
Sure.
A booking in soccer just means a player is shown a yellow card by the referee, which is basically a severe formal warning.
Exactly. And the crucial rule here is that 2 yellow cards, 2 bookings, automatically equal a red card.
Got it.
So Garbi is immediately ejected from the game. But unlike other sports, in soccer, a team is not allowed to bring a substitute on to replace an ejected player.
Oh, man. So Tunisia's just forced to play the rest of the match a man down.
Yeah, which feels like it fundamentally alters the physics of the game.
Going back to that virus analogy, a virus doesn't just crash the firewall, it leaves the back door wide open for everything else to flood in.
Exactly. The geometry of the pitch completely changes when you lose a man. Soccer is, incredibly reliant on triangles. Yeah, groups of 3 players passing and moving to maintain possession. When you remove one node from that network, the remaining 10 players suddenly have to cover significantly more grass.
Which has to be exhausting.
Oh, lungs start burning, fatigue multiplies exponentially, and gaps inevitably start appearing in the defensive line.
And we really saw Belgium ruthlessly exploit those gaps. If we look at the timeline after that 62nd minute red card, it is just punishing.
Completely punishing.
Exactly 3 minutes later, Doku strikes again. He sets up the midfielder, Kevin De Bruyne, who spots an opening and just fires a shot from outside the penalty area to make it 3-0.
And once a team with elite technical passers like De Bruyne goes up 3-0 against the 10-man side, the structural resistance is entirely gone. They're broken.
It turned into a cascade. The report notes Leandro Trossard gets a tap in, which is just an easy goal from point-blank range because the defense was totally pulled out of position. Then Charles de Ketelaere scores a close-range header off a cross, meaning a teammate. Yuri Tielemans, actually, whipped a long aerial pass in from the sideline right into the danger zone.
Yep.
And then Nicholas Raskin adds a 5th goal to finish it off.
5 goals from 5 different sources.
Okay, so what does this all mean? If 3 of the goals came right around or immediately after Tunisia went down to 10 men and were completely exhausted, does a 5-0 scoreline create a dangerous illusion of dominance for Belgium?
That's a great question.
Are they going to look at the scoreboard, pat themselves on the back, and assume they are this untouchable powerhouse, when in reality, the math was heavily skewed in their favor for the last third of the game?
That is the multi-million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And it is the exact concern every top-tier manager loses sleep over.
I bet.
You never want your team reading their own press clippings when the context of the victory is artificially inflated by a red card. However, while the sheer volume of goals might be slightly magnified by that man advantage, I do not believe Belgium's dominance is a mirage. And the reason lies entirely in the mechanics of how they scored.
Okay, walk me through those mechanics. Because at the end of the day, 5 goals is 5 goals, but you're saying the blueprint matters more than the scoreboard.
The blueprint is everything. Look at the names on the score sheet. You have Trossard, De Ketelaere, De Bruyne, Dodi Lukebakio, and Raskin. 5 different players occupying completely different areas of the pitch, finding the back of the net.
I see what you're saying. That is a tactical nightmare for an opposing coach to prepare for.
It is the ultimate competitive advantage. If a national team relies on one single superstar striker to score 80% of their goals, they have built a system with a single point of failure.
Right, because if an opponent manages to double-team that superstar and shut them down,
the whole Belgian machine would just grind to a halt.
Wow, yeah.
But this match proved Belgium doesn't have a single point of failure. They have a decentralized threat. You have wingers getting tap-ins, midfielders shooting from distance, and players scoring headers from crosses.
Yeah.
Yes, the red card created space, but the clinical, multi-dimensional way they use that space proves the engine is humming perfectly.
But what is wild to me is that this decentralized attack, this highly functioning machine with 5 different goal scorers, was actually missing its traditional centerpiece for the majority of the match.
Which is crazy to think about.
It really is. And that brings us to the most enigmatic storyline of this entire report.
The return of Romelu Lukaku.
Romelu Lukaku. Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Let me give you the stats on this guy from the report because the contrast is staggering.
Go for it.
So he comes off the bench in the 65th minute. He plays just 25 minutes, yet he immediately makes a massive impact, providing the crucial, gritty assist that allowed Lukebakio to scramble the ball into the net.
He's just an incredible physical presence right in the opponent's penalty box.
Yeah. Right. But here's the context that makes this performance so fascinating. This match was only his 2nd international appearance in a full calendar year.
Just his 2nd.
His first was just days prior, where he also managed to score against Croatia. And wait, the craziest detail is this. According to the source, Lukaku did not make a single start, not one, for his club team, Napoli, in Italy's Serie A this entire season.
0 starts for his club all year.
I just try to imagine the psychological toll of that. Like, let's hazard a guess here. Is a slump like that purely a mental hurdle? Like, does sitting on the bench week after week completely sap your confidence? Or is there an actual physical rustiness that develops when you aren't playing full-speed competitive matches for an entire year?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it is usually a toxic combination of both.
Right.
Physical match sharpness is notoriously difficult to replicate in training, but what we're really witnessing with Lukaku is the fascinating dichotomy between club form and national team identity. Fans heavily assume that if a player is failing at their day job with their club, they will be utterly useless for their country. But soccer is highly contextual. It is an ecosystem.
Okay, let me make sure I understand the mechanics of that ecosystem.
Yeah.
Because as an outside observer, it feels like athletic talent should be static.
Right.
You either have the skill to play at an elite level or you don't.
It's never that binary, though. A club like Napoli operates with a very specific, rigid tactical system. They have a specific manager who demands specific movement patterns.
Okay.
For whatever reason, perhaps pacing, perhaps defensive responsibilities, Lukaku was not the right puzzle piece for Napoli's specific ecosystem this season.
But the Belgian national team.
That is an entirely different universe.
Yeah.
They have spent over a decade building their offensive identity around his specific
He's their all-time leading goal scorer, right?
Exactly. When he puts on the Belgian jersey, he is no longer the guy who couldn't get off the bench in Italy. He is an icon. He carries an immense psychological weight that literally terrifies opposing defenders. He has what soccer tacticians refer to as gravity.
Gravity. That is a brilliant way to describe a player. Explain how gravity works on a soccer pitch.
So gravity is a player's ability to pull defenders out of position without even touching the ball.
Oh, I see.
Because of Lukaku's massive physical frame and his history of scoring, center backs are terrified to leave him alone.
Makes sense.
Even if he is just standing near the penalty spot, 2 defenders will instinctively gravitate toward him to ensure he doesn't get the ball.
And by pulling those 2 defenders toward him, he suddenly creates like a 10-yard pocket of empty space right at the edge of the box for a technical player like Kevin De Bruyne to run into.
Precisely. His mere presence alters the structural shape of the opponent.
That's wild.
He can be totally sidelined in one club system, but be the absolute missing gravitational force in another. Bringing that kind of veteran gravity off the bench for the last 25 minutes, especially when the opponent is already fatigued and down a man, is a devastating weapon.
It is a remarkable redemption arc. So, you take this chaotic, virus-like winger in Doku. You take this decentralized, multi-angle midfield.
Yeah.
And you take this gravitational veteran striker in Lukaku. And you have to pack that entire ecosystem onto an airplane and fly them to the United States. Which brings us to the immediate future.
The road to Seattle.
Yes. According to the report, this 5-0 win was the final warm-up. They opened their World Cup Group G campaign on June 15th against Egypt, and they will be playing in Seattle.
Right.
The report also notes that Group G consists of Egypt, Iran, and New Zealand. And the source material explicitly uses the phrase, a favorable draw.
Well, this raises an important question, and it goes right back to the very first thing we discussed, the hidden danger of a 5-0 victory.
Yeah, I was originally going to compare this final warm-up to a Broadway dress rehearsal, but based on what you're saying, it actually feels more like taking a practice exam where you already had the answer key in your pocket.
Oh, that's good.
You ace the practice test. You feel like an absolute genius. But that creates a massive false sense of security that is going to shatter the second you sit down for the real unscripted exam.
That is a phenomenal analogy. In tournament soccer, we call this the paradox of preparation.
The paradox of preparation.
Yeah. You desperately want an easy path, but you have to be terrified of the psychological side effects of getting one.
Because it makes you soft.
Exactly. When a team comes off a 5-0 demolition where their wingers looked unplayable and their strikers were scoring at will, and then they look at a schedule featuring Egypt, Iran, and New Zealand.
Yeah.
The human brain subconsciously whispers, we can coast through this.
It deprives the team of fear. And fear is actually a useful resource, isn't it?
Fear and adrenaline are vital biological resources in elite sports.
Absolutely.
A favorable draw means the media expects Belgium to dominate. The fans expect them to win comfortably. Every ounce of pressure is solely on their shoulders.
Well, the other teams have none.
Right. Meanwhile, Teams like Egypt, Iran, and New Zealand fully embrace their underdog status. They know they have a technical disadvantage, so they compensate with desperate, organized, deeply aggressive defensive intensity.
They play with a nothing-to-lose mentality, which probably boosts their physical output by 5 or 10%, easily negating some of the skill gap.
Absolutely. If Belgium steps onto the pitch in Seattle, operating at 90% intensity because they subconsciously think it's going to be another easy stroll.
An underdog operating at 110% intensity will just tackle them off the pitch.
Exactly. The primary challenge for the Belgian coaching staff on that long flight to the Pacific Northwest isn't tactical anymore. The tactics work.
Right.
The challenge is entirely psychological. It is convincing a squad that just aced the practice exam that the real test hasn't even begun, and that every single opponent in a World Cup is a lethal threat to their survival.
It is going to be an absolutely gripping psychological experiment to watch unfold.
It really is.
And it gives us so much to look forward to when June 15th finally arrives. So, to synthesize all of this for you listening, we started by looking at a single 90-minute stretch of an exhibition match. But we uncovered a goldmine of strategic insight.
We really did. The layers beneath the final score are always where the true story lives.
Yeah, we analyzed how Jeremy Doku's unpredictable pace acts as a system-breaking variable, forcing defensive programming to completely crash, resulting in a red card that changed the geometry of the pitch. We saw how a decentralized midfield capitalizes on that broken geometry, proving that multiple angles of attack are vastly superior to a single superstar point of failure.
Spot on.
We broke down the mechanics of Romelu Lukaku's gravity and how a player's value is entirely dependent on the ecosystem they are placed in.
Yeah.
And finally, we explored the paradox of preparation and the intense psychological danger of entering a major tournament on the heels of a massive victory and a so-called favorable draw.
It is the perfect recipe for either a dominant tournament run or a shocking, catastrophic upset. But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over, and it builds entirely on the stark reality of Romelu Lukaku's situation.
I'm all ears.
Think about the facts of his year. 0 starts for Napoli.
0.
For an entire season, in the eyes of his club's specific tactical system, he was simply not viewed as a valuable asset. Yet the moment he changes his jersey and enters the Belgian ecosystem, he scores against Croatia and provides a gritty, physical assist against Tunisia. It challenges everything we assume about the static nature of talent.
It really makes you rethink how we measure potential.
Yes, exactly. So ask yourself, how often in your own life, whether in your career, your personal passions, or your relationships, do you look at someone or even look at yourself and assume there is a fundamental lack of talent or drive?
Wow.
We see underperformance and we assume the engine is broken, but Lukaku's journey suggests that talent rarely just evaporates.
Yeah.
Sometimes the engine is perfectly fine, but it's just plugged into the wrong machine.
Yeah.
Before you write yourself off or write someone else off, ask if it's a lack of capability or if it's simply a matter of finding the right ecosystem that inherently values your specific kind of gravity.
What an incredibly powerful mental model to walk away with. It's not always about changing who you are. Sometimes it's just about finding the field where your specific strengths are actually needed.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for breaking down the mechanics of this match with such depth.
My pleasure.
And to you listening, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We are going to be watching right alongside you when the lights finally go down in Seattle. Until next time, keep questioning the obvious and take care.